Welcome to the Guest House Podcast, your home for behind-the-scenes action of the PBA Tour. Now your host, Packy Hanrahan.
All right, guys, welcome to the Guest House Podcast. This week's episode, we have Chris Vi, U.S. Open champ,
It's the first clap I've given.
million-time Team USA member. How many years have you been on Team USA?
1.1.
1.1.
1.1 thousand million?
Is it like 4, 5?
It is 6.
6.
Yeah, this year's year 6.
Year 6. You were on it for a year.
I was on it for 3.
And then off
and
for
then
1.
Off of it for 3.
Really?
And then on it for
Why
3.
were you off of it for 3?
Yeah, I was on for 16, 17, and 18. 19, don't think I even tried out. I think I submitted a resume, but bowling just wasn't going very well at the time. I just felt like I kind of wanted to take a break from it. And I did submit a resume, and I was like, if they pick me, they pick me. If not, oh well. I think 2020 was the same way. I don't think I tried out, but then COVID happened. Obviously, I started bowling a little bit better, but then obviously COVID happened. So that team was an extra year.
It was like 2 years of the same team.
Yeah, so it was 2 years of the same team.
Yeah.
So,
See, I thought you were only off for like 1 or 2, which makes sense that it...
Yeah, technically 2. I would like to think I might have made it in 2021. Felt like I was bowling pretty well, but
Yeah.
That's when you started going on the run you had.
That was the COVID year. They kept the same team because they didn't get to travel or go anywhere.
So this gave him another
and they
opportunity.
didn't, so.
Who is the favorite Team USA team you've bowled with?
I really like the team that we got now. I think the team last year was really good as well.
But accolades aside, like chemistry, like who was the most fun to bowl with? Because you caught a little bit of Tommy and Chris in it, the vets.
Yeah, I was on the World Championships team in 27. It was Tommy, It was Tommy, Barnes, myself, AJ, Marshall, and Buttram. Yes, that was a pretty good team. That was a lot of fun. We won gold, so that was pretty sick. I don't know, because I feel like I bowl a lot of like the PABCON event. I mean, obviously I bowl the World Championships, but I bowl like the PABCON events. So, like I bowled with Nick, I bowled with Darren last year, bowled with Russo, Brandon Bone last year. We had JJ. I bowled with him a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Qatar or Qatar, apparently it's pronounced Qatar.
Really?
So JJ and I, we flew all the way over there, we roomed together, so that was a lot of fun. Felt like I learned a lot that week, and just hanging out with him was always a blast. So I don't know, man. It's hard to say, but I feel like the program's kind of getting pretty young. Like I think.
Agreed. You're the old guy.
I'm one of the old guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the oldest guy on the team this year? Jake?
Jake or Troop, whoever's older between the two of them.
I think it's
probably
Jake. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just crazy. I think Troop's only a few months older than I am, and I very well could be the third oldest person on the team, which is
we're the new
pretty
wave.
crazy. Yeah, it's just crazy that that kind of generation before us is kind of gone. Where you had the Tommy, you had the Bills, you had the Wesses, you had Rhino was on it for quite a few years, and it was pretty sick to watch. I mean, I feel like Team USA bowling doesn't really get a whole lot of recognition. Like, not too many people are like dying to watch Team USA bowl or anything like that.
Well, because you don't bowl that much.
Yeah, we just don't bowl that much. But even when we do, it just feels like if we're overseas somewhere, it's always at a weird time to where people aren't going to wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. to watch us bowl.
Watch it, yeah.
Or just in general, maybe it's just not that exciting to watch. There's not really like a true live stream per se, but
a lot of the people don't know the other teams too. Like when people watch bowling now, it's like they're watching the tour guys. But when you go see the national guys over there, I feel like most people just know the USA guys because they're the PBA guys. Some of the other
so you'll know like a guy or two from the other teams, but even a team that's amazing like Sweden, like to your regular fan, they might know Jesper.
Yeah,
but they might know Pontus. They probably won't know anybody else on that team.
Yeah,
I mean, Martin.
Martin really doesn't bowl.
Martin, like Belmo doesn't usually bowl for Australia.
Yeah, I know he did in 2017. Sam bowled for him. I think Callum bowled for him. He was out here bowling PTQs, stuff like that. So
and Belmo did this past year because he was in Australia.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I feel like we know a lot more bowlers just being around
competing.
But for the average viewer out there, like
they might know one person on another team. They might not even know everyone on Team USA.
Like Timmy Tan's out here. He's bowling. He bowls for Malaysia.
Stud.
I mean, a lot of the Asian countries, they I mean, they basically like live together. I mean, they had the same team for years on years. They practice together. They pretty much live together. They do everything together. So, those teams don't really ever change. And I feel like that's kind of the unique slash.
It's like a job to them though on national.
Yeah, but it's like a possible downside for, I'm just talking in Team USA realm, just because like, yeah, we bowl against each other for the most part. Like there's 3 or 4 guys on our team this year, maybe more than that.
So I think it's like 4 or 5 almost. Yeah.
It's like the PBA League we see now. The guys that are the best on paper, that doesn't make them the best team. Like it's the teams that mesh well together and have a chemistry. Where it's like a lot of those, and I know the littlest about like the whole this side of like the national teams because I've never tried out for USA. I didn't grow up bowling youth events to know this whole thing, but I heard like some of the other national teams, like they get paid like salaries, like to bowl for their team and stuff. So it is like
that's their job. That is their job.
That's their full-time job and stuff. Where it's not the case for USA. So like you said, they can build on that chemistry year round. It's just so different versus us.
I mean, like some of the Asian countries, like they can get out of the military. Like a lot of countries, like you're required to go to the military for X amount of years. You may not get deployed anywhere, but you have to train and you have to like basically know what you're doing for a couple of years, and you may end up working in some sort of branch of military. But there's some places where, hey, if you win gold medals or if you win X amount of medals or whatever it is, you can keep bowling. Like you don't have to go, like, because you're representing your country well, you're doing your part bowling rather than doing your part going to the military. So it's crazy, seeing
the culture is so different.
It's just wild. Like, that was kind of the first real wake-up kind of experience I had when I went to Thailand in 2012 bowling for the youth team. It's like, there's some teams over there, it's like as soon as they lose, they're bawling their eyes out. And it's not because they lost. It's they got to go to the military.
Yeah, now their lives changed because they lost.
It's not just we lost a match, like, well, it's still a fun trip. No, like, there's so much more on the line for them.
It's crazy.
I mean, I couldn't even imagine. Like, we bowl for a living.
Not like that.
Yeah, it's
you bowl for money.
We bowl for a monetary living, not for a living like that.
Yeah.
Do you think the Team USA experience has like helped you become a better professional bowler?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just in general, learning more about the game. I think seeing different sides of it, traveling, getting more experience and being in different situations, I feel like that's never going to hurt you. Whether it be match play situations, whether it be team events, whether it be singles events, other formats, like
bowlers.
Like just experiencing, other parts of the world, like just getting used to traveling, time management.
Well, the game's so different. Everywhere you go, like learning the tour is so different from learning amateur stuff. So going overseas and seeing the balls that those people throw, whatever it is, how they see the lanes, it's like we say every time we get on the podcast, you experience. Like you can't coach it.
Yeah.
So when you get to go bowl in Qatar and all these other places, like it's not the same as in the States. It just simply isn't.
It's not like I'm gonna immediately come back and become a better tour bowler just because of.
But you learn.
Being over
tools.
There. But you learn. And I feel like you're getting put in different scenarios where it's like, you're in pressure situations bowling on tour, right? Like you're going into match play or you make a TV show or whatever it is. Like you get nervous, you want it. Like there's pressure and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like another way of being able to practice that, because not only can you have pressure individually bowling overseas, but at the same time, like you're bowling for your team, you're bowling for your country. So it's just, like I said, it's just another experience to where it's more exposure.
Do you think there's more pressure bowling for your country / team or bowling individually?
I bowl better with teams because then it's not just, I don't let myself down, I'm letting other people down.
Correct. That's where I feel. I don't want to say it's more pressure.
Different mindset.
I want it more.
Yeah.
And it's like I want to perform even better in a team event. Like, not saying obviously I don't want to bowl well, but it's like I want it that much more because I don't want to let my teammates down. Like, I don't want to be the reason that we lost.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like, if somebody else misses a spare or splits or whatever, it's like I'm not ever going to hold it against them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like anyone's trying to mess up.
Yeah.
But it's one of those, it's like I want to do this for my team because there's other people that are believing in you and counting on you to be.
It's just fun to share that moment with other people.
Yeah, and it's obviously I mean, you go up there if you're in the 10th frame or just in general, or if you throw a strike to close out a match or give yourself a really good opportunity or whatever. But it's like you're like walking on water. I mean, just that
well, you get to share that moment with someone else.
Yeah, it's just like there's 4 or 5 guys coming up to greet you on the lane that they're pumped that you threw a good shot and you did something for them. Yeah, it's really like one of those super cool feelings. So I love team bowling. That's why I'm super excited that the league is kind of expanded.
Love it.
Because
love it.
Yeah, it's just one of those, you get basically every week that we're bowling, we have an opportunity to do that.
And we don't ever get to do that.
And we don't ever get to do
you
that.
Bowl for yourself. Your ups and downs are on you. You have your friends that talk about it and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it's just you bowling. So bowling for the team is like, it also is nice when like you have people behind you to pick you up if you're bowling like crap.
Yeah.
If you're kind of struggling, you have guys that fill in, and it feels good to be like, all right, this is a true team effort. It's just a whole nother mindset really than anything. You obviously want to bowl good by yourself with team and everything, but it's like, it hits different when you're doing it with like friends or whoever, teammates, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. With the Atom Splitters, Bakes has kind of put me in charge, like when he's not here. So Coach Mark Baker, I don't know if I'm just saying Bakes. I don't know how many people actually know that
Bakes.
is. But, Coach Mark Baker, he's our team manager, but he's kind of put me in charge when he's not there. So he's going to be there for our 2 TV shows. But yeah, he's got his own little training center out there, Westpac Training Center. That's super cool. He's got a bunch of tech and all that stuff. But just having that responsibility that he trusts me and making lineup changes and all that stuff, and my teammates also.
For sure.
Not like I'm not the oldest guy on the team. We got 2 other guys that are older than me on the team. That it's one of those like Jesper's been on the team for a long time. TD's been on the team for a long time, and then I came in after that. So it's a unique kind of thing that I guess the third guy on the team is the captain or whatever it may be. But it's cool that they trust me and trying to pull the trigger at the right time or make the right call at the right time.
Yeah, you benched yourself.
Yeah,
like last week or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, well, my arm was kind of not doing the greatest, and I told my teammates, I'm like, listen, like I think my look is pretty good. I was like, but I don't want to get up there not knowing if my arm's just going to kind of like give out at any certain time, and if I put myself 3 or 4 and it's a close match and then all of a sudden my arm kind of gives away and I get 6 and
let the team do their
then
job.
I split, then it's like I got full confidence in my teammates that they're going to go out there and make good shots. And we bowled really well. Unfortunately, we only went 1-1, lost in a roll off, but it's a cool thing. I'm just super glad that the league has expanded.
It must be nice having like 6 every week.
It's funny. It's funny to see. It's cool to see like how the teams are gelling, because we're so used to bowling each other week in and week out by yourself. Everyone's got their own little ways of seeing the lanes and stuff, and sometimes people gatekeep like their little tricks and tips. So it's cool to see guys like trusting the process and opening up and just like being a team player, and you can see which teams are gelling without even looking at the standings. Like we've bowled you guys twice now, and you guys are always laughing and having fun. Your lineup looks a little different every time. You're always making jokes, even if you're down or up, if it's a close match or not. Like you guys always seem to have a good time, and I feel like it goes a long ways where like some other teams aren't quite there yet, because it takes, especially if like you aren't friends really before you became teams. Like our team could be so good, but like not all of us really hang out. Tomas is a little quiet. Me and Darren are close, whatever. But it's like finding a way to gel together. It's like it's cool to see how teams are going through that process. And I feel like you guys are one of the teams that like just naturally started clicking. You fall into place. No one cares where they bowl, what position they are, if they need to sit or not. They just want to win.
It's also easy to gel when you're striking a bunch. Just in general for all the teams. When times get a little tough, it's like then you kind of really see if if the team's going well or not. But just a couple different things about that. It's like I feel like my team. We actually had a couple conversations over the last couple weeks. I feel like a lot of us have kind of, I don't want to say bold scared, but like bold as in we don't want to let our teammates down.
Oh, our team is that big time.
To where it's like
we put too much pressure on it.
Yeah, to where it's like we make a bad shot and then we're like, oh man, get
We wanted a little too much.
like super down on ourselves.
Yep.
And then it kind of brings the team morale down, where it's like,
that's what we
it's
are.
like, dude, like it's all right, like no one's mad at you, like it's all good.
Yeah.
But then it's like, then that person kind of is like in a little bit of a rut. So then now they're like, okay, now I got to make up for it because now I messed up. Now I got to make up for it.
Now you throw a cooler strike.
Well, and then it's like just a compile like type of deals where it's like,
100%.
it's like, okay, well, that wasn't a good one. It's like, okay, well now I need to make up for it.
Yeah.
And then it just gets compiled.
It's exactly where we are.
But,
I can see it in the shot making.
but it's cool to see the teams how it started and how it is now, where it's like, the first week, like no one really knew what was going on.
Right.
But like
how serious they would take it.
But there's like 2 or 3 people that were wearing their league jersey during practice, and then like some people just had their normal jerseys on, and then they went and changed. Now, like I would say 95% of the people are wearing their league jerseys. There's teams that are practicing together now, like starting practicing together. So it's like where you're saying, it's like, didn't know if people were going to share their secrets or whatever it is like that. It's like they're legit like trying to help their teammates line up.
Yeah.
Like, we've had a few of our guys that'll practice together, and it is what it is, but I'll go around and find Dick, or I'll find TD, or I'll find Frankie, or whoever, and be like, yeah, like, does your look good? Like, do you need help? Like, is there anything, like, are you searching for something or whatever? It's like, they're like, no, I'm good. Or it's like, I'm not really sure. Like, all right, well, like, what'd you try? So it's like something to where it's, you don't necessarily have to bowl together, but you can at least be to where it's like, hey, like, you good? Or do you need help?
Well, that's
or,
the big thing, is the honesty. Like, everyone wants to bowl, even if it is throwing a couple shots. It's like, you got to know whenever it's like, hey, my ball action isn't that great. Like, if you guys are pretty confident, I'll sit it out. As much as you want to be in the game and you want to be the 4 or 5 hole or whatever it looks like, you got to be able to take a step back. It's like, I can tell you guys all just truly trust the process, because, like, not to throw Frankie under the bus, but he hasn't been bowling very well in the last year and a half, and he's been your guys' 5 hole most weeks that I've seen.
Yeah.
And it just seems like
3 of the weeks, I think, yeah.
Yeah, and it just seems like you guys are just like, well, we can all make a shot. Like, just trust it. Whether people are bowling good or bad on tour. Where it's like some other teams, it's like, well, I'm the best bowler on the team. I'm going to be the 5 hole no matter how good I bowl,
We always joke about it, where we'll be 5 minutes into a practice and somebody will have like a double and be like, yep, 5 hole. Like,
Right.
like just messing around with it. We talked to Jesper this week, right? Like, the left wasn't great this week. And Jesper is down there practicing. He was moving pairs and was carrying a couple of urethane bowling balls. He's like, yo, red ball no good this week? He's like, oof. And I was like, all right, well, we know you ain't the 5 hole. Just like teasing with him. Or I think he was like, yeah, no 5 hole. TD's reaction like wasn't great, like on fresh. He's like, yeah, I brought in a couple different balls for the league. Okay.
Yeah, we talked about it at the Lucy last year in the summer. You and me talked for like an hour, and we restructured what we thought the league would be, and then we wrote it in notes, and then we talked about bringing it up to Chris Barnes and Tom Clark at the league last year in September.
Yeah.
And I had it all typed out. You and me hashed out like what we kind of thought it would look like. And not to say it was our idea, or they weren't already going to do that, but a lot of the things we said to do is exactly what the league is.
Well, actually,
it's in my notes. It's pretty much exactly what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I think it's our best chance to like become big.
And I think there's also some, still some additional things that they could add to it.
For sure. It's trial and error.
Yeah. Like, I was just talking to Packy, like, there's a trade deadline that's in 2 days. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Do you think anyone makes a trade?
No.
I know there's been a trade offer, at least one, but do you think anyone makes a trade?
I didn't even know it was a thing.
The thing is, the season is so short, like, does a trade make that big a difference? Like, we have a month off, and then we go back after, and the trade deadline's already now. It's like, we've only been bowling for 6 weeks. Some guys...
It doesn't even have to be a trade, though. You can just drop somebody.
I know, but like, I don't think anyone will do that.
Let's say Bug Kroll is in 12th in points or 10th in points. Yeah. Zach Wilkins is in 7th in points overall for the whole season.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have,
I don't think anyone
just for
will do
example,
it.
you have a Tom Hess on your team who's not bowling well.
Yeah.
Who you could easily just say, okay, well, we'll drop Tom. Or Parker could drop himself, or both. He could drop both of them and say, hey, I want 2 new players on my team. I'll take Bug and Zach because I know they're bowling amazing right now.
When you look at it, it's like
that
team, they're what, 1-7?
Yeah, they're almost mathematically.
Why not switch it up completely?
Like they're 1-7, and then Dallas is 2-6 or 2-5 because I think they need to bowl one more match or whatever it is. But it's like those teams, like, yeah, maybe they do make a change just because they're like, listen, we got to go for the home run. Like, we need
you got to win
all of them to where it's like, hey,
but you're
like,
dropping guys
team,
and then they don't get paid now?
No, they do. They do.
They get paid a percentage of what they
so the way it works is you get paid a percentage of the matches that you were in. So it's going to be 14.
Yeah.
So you would get a 14th or 7 14ths or whatever 14ths of the actual prize
Yeah,
fund.
whatever that percentage of what you bowled.
Yeah, so it's tough, but
I don't see anyone dropping anyone because, like,
I'd be curious to see how it's actually going.
trades, like, even like trades, like.
No, I'm talking like, I'd be curious to see how the league is actually going. Like, we all think it's going great. I don't know if it's going to draw, like, and then next year we could bowl and we could go back to what we did, and it's one thing in Portland, Maine, because
I hope not.
The goal of the league is to get more sponsors, more money, more views. But if the league isn't actually translating to those things, maybe it's 2 or 3 years that you do it, maybe it's 1 year that you do it.
You got to do it for a little more.
Yeah, but I mean,
but you have no idea if you look at the.
How do we know though? Looking at the ratings.
You look at the TV ratings, and if you say, okay, well, all the league shows we had were like the lowest rated shows, then you're like, okay, well, it didn't quite work.
Yeah, well, before last week when Troop won, that was the highest FS1 show in PBA history.
Yeah.
Before that was the first league match. And
oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. So
the
match
this year.
Yeah, the match that you guys were on.
What we need to hear.
Was the highest FS1.
Oh, so that's perfect.
Show.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Why would we not, like, to pump that up? Man, why don't we throw out whenever guys get drafted to a league, they have to sign a quick contract that states like you have to post about your league matches a couple times before it happens, like things like that, because a lot of guys like don't put in that little extra work to be like, yo, tune in to FS1 to watch her. Maybe they do because when you're on TV, like everyone wants to see you on TV or whatever.
Yeah,
but even like the bowl TV matches and stuff, it's like, hey, we need to pump it as much as possible because I think it could grow into something.
Because that's the couple matches that you're on TV, yeah, you're going to promote it because, you know, they did at least do, I think, a smart job or a smart thing to where it's like the home teams are on TV those weeks to where I think Vegas bowls.
We bowl the Dallas Strikers in
be.
Vegas, but I know Vegas also will bowl.
Yeah, Vegas also bowls. So Vegas is going to be in Vegas. They're the home team. And Akron, we're going to be in Akron. So that's going to be the home team.
You know what they should do, and what I would love to see? Who here is a Motown Muscle fan? And we're in Detroit. Everyone loses their minds. So y'all want them to win? Yeah. Who are they going to bowl against? Vegas. Boo them. Literally. Like, why not? We should create the atmosphere that other main sports have and be able to boo and stuff like that. And obviously not be malicious.
Yeah,
about
where
it.
like you're at a Celtics game, the Lakers are shooting free throws,
screwing
and the
like
crowd's
F you, Belmo, or something like nothing like that.
But the crowd is going nuts trying to distract the other team.
Brr, brr, throwing out horns and stuff. Like,
Yeah,
I
and then
think
you
you
hear,
should create
like-
that atmosphere because then it'd be fun to show up as a fan.
Yeah.
But I want to boo against the LAX. Like, I want to see Detroit win or whatever, you know.
And I think that's the kind of that next step that you're kind of missing is.
People just gotta get used to it.
Yeah.
Ideally, it would be, okay, yeah, get the entire crowd to wear their shirts.
Yeah.
100%.
Like, hey,
Make it as
we have
relatable to other
100
sports.
people. If that shirt costs you $10, you lose $1,000.
First X amount of people that are wearing said team colors get in free.
Do a blackout game.
Get in
you
free.
know,
Be like, yo, Motown is blue and white, basically.
wear a blue shirt.
It's like, yo,
get
if
in
you
free.
wear a blue shirt and you're in the first X amount of people with a blue shirt, you're in free. So
Have
it's
someone at the
like-
front door where they have merch, and then as they come in, just greet her. Who you rooting for? If they say Motown, like, you get a Motown shirt, put it on. So then you just see like a crowd of just like Motown shirts.
Yeah.
Or like when you go to an NBA game, and when you go to sit down, they have the Motown, the home team shirt there that you can just put on.
Yeah.
Like a blackout game, a whiteout game.
And then all of a
whatever.
sudden, everyone's wearing the same shirt, and the stadium looks cool, or the crowd
Yeah.
looks awesome, and all
Or
that.
just in general, where it's like they wear that shirt the match, you know, cool, whatever, and then
Get it signed later.
And then a couple weeks later, they wear it to league, and then everyone at league's like Motown Muscle.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, no, it's
It's our hometown
it's a
PBA team.
hometown PBA team. It's like,
Yeah.
I went to the match that they had against whoever. It's like, bro, it was a great match. Like they won, blah blah. It's like they're doing really well this year. Like, you know, whatever it is. And it's like, then it's like, oh, okay, well, let me look into that.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, we got EJ and Simon on the same team. Like, oh, yeah. Like,
Sick.
I'm gonna be a Motown
We're
Muscle.
stacked.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a Motown Muscle fan.
Yeah.
So it's also hard that the teams change so much.
So that was one of my questions.
That's- yeah.
I've been asking a couple people about it recently.
keepers.
If you think, like last year, you could only keep 2 because they needed to reset because they needed to cut 2 teams and add a player to every team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
new looks.
it was a little bigger because we're bowling all season. They needed to go to 6 instead of 5. That way, if someone's hurt or if someone's out, no big deal. You still have 5 guys who can bowl.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't consistently just need subs on your team. This year, with it being 6 players, how many people do you think the PBA League keeps? So per team, if usually on other years,
it's been 3.
it would be 5 bowlers per team and you can keep 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
With 6 bowlers per team, do you still keep 3, or would you try and say, hey, you could keep 4 players and just draft 2?
I think you should be able to keep as many as you want.
If you want to keep your whole
6,
squad,
you keep 6.
I think so.
it's just like every other main sport.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like, I think, like, yeah, I like my 6. Like, yeah, we got, like, 3rd last year, but whatever. Like, I really like what my team is shaping up to be. I want to keep all 6. I'm good. I don't need to be a part of the
I
draft.
feel like a lot of teams
And so-
would do that too if they were
Yeah.
starting to vibe.
That's why
it's like what Las
I-
Vegas did. They got the
Yeah,
same team.
And I get it to where it's like, yeah, okay, well, that makes it hard for the people to get into the league. I get it. And that does pose an issue. But if the league grows, we can add teams.
And that's overall what we want.
Yeah, now we can add
And then
10
you have a
teams.
redraft or something like, hey, you all have to give 1 player up for pick.
Yeah. It's
And
like,
if they
hey,
don't want to pick them, they
yeah.
don't pick them, but they're up for draft.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Any expansion in any
Yeah.
major sport.
Yeah.
Well, now we're changing up the main fields next year, so that way the same faces are in pretty much every week. You do an expansion of teams, same amount of teams make it to the playoffs, but you still have your round robin throughout the year, regular season for the league, and you build off that restructure as well. The only thing that sucks about that is if you add teams again, those 2 teams you add are going to be awful. I don't say awful, but like
Not necessarily.
But
If
you
you
kept
kill-
an EJ and a Simo when you add 2 new teams. They don't have the
Well, yeah, that's where you got to do. It's like, hey,
Another
you gotta
full
give
restructure.
up. You got to give up a couple of players, but if it's like, well, yeah, we're just going to give up our guy that we picked 6th because he's 40th in points, then it's like, yeah, those teams might not be that great, but hey, maybe it's like a team where, I don't think Vegas really has anybody in the top X number of points. Like
Russo would be the top one.
Russo's probably the top run.
AJ's been bowling well.
AJ's,
Oh, yeah,
bowled,
AJ's been
AJ's
bowled
bowled
And
well year
Andrew
to
just
year.
led this
Yeah, Andrew
week.
bowled well this week, but
Has bowled pretty
He's
not great all year.
bowled okay, and
Yeah.
it's like Russo's bowled okay. Like obviously he's made a show. AJ made a couple of shows.
But
like,
they're in
so
first.
He's bowling well. He's like, but when they bowl together, they're incredible. Like we were just
Yeah,
looking
it's
at the
all-
stats. Like
all
Andrew's
vibes.
got like a 72.5% strike percentage in the league. Like that's stupid.
Imagine if he had a 72% strike percentage during the season.
Yeah.
He'd be the player of the year runner.
Yeah, I mean it's just one of those things where when they bowl together, they just bowl really, really well together. They got Ogle on their team. He's bowling not great. Rash is on that team. He's
Not
bowling
great.
Not great.
Yeah.
But it's like when they bowl together, bowl really, really
Yeah,
good.
they're clicking.
Yeah.
You see all these expansion teams in other sports. Translation purposes to a PBA team, if you can only save 3 guys and you pick the 4th best guy off every team, it's probably a pretty good team.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, you've talked about that before, where it's
Like
like
you're picking not the superstar.
they get the first
but
couple
you're
picks,
picking-
Yeah.
the first 3 picks.
You're picking like the 4th best guy who's probably a like between 30 and 50 is in points, and the difference between, especially when you only get to bowl 2 frames.
Well,
the
any one of
difference-
us can
the
throw a
difference
double.
between 30th and like
45th, 50th.
the difference between 30th and 50th is not that big.
No.
And the difference between 30th and like 10th in points is also not that big.
No, it really isn't. It's just who's
The
kind of
difference
hot at
between
the top.
3 or 4 guys.
Yeah,
Yes,
obviously.
There's the big gap is between like
I agree, though.
the top 5 and 5th through 10th. There's a different level there, but from like 10th in points to 30th in points,
Well, you look at the
that
fields.
guy had a couple of good events at the right time.
Yeah, just got hot, matched up,
Or
whatever.
he had an unbelievable event where he won or something like that, where he got enough points, and then okay, well he got a ton of points the week that he bowled well, and the other weeks he bowled good enough.
Yeah, I think I like that idea where it's like, okay, let's say we expand to 10 or 12 teams, whatever that
I'm
number
just
looks
trying to
like.
make it stay the format it is for next year.
I
would
wanted to
hope.
say this too, but I like if whatever the expansion is, it's like, okay, let's say we do 3 keepers. So everyone loses 50% of their teams. The teams that they expand, they do a draft first out of the guys that get dropped first, so they get the best first picks. So it's like if it adds 2 teams, they just snake it back and forth. they get the best picks of all the guys dropped. That way they get the first better of the guys, what they think. And then the rest gets back into a draft altogether.
So that is how an expansion works.
Yeah.
An expansion would work like those if everyone's starting with 3 players, they get to pick up to 3 players.
And
then the rest
draft happens.
Yeah.
And they would probably even get the first couple picks of that.
I mean, that's overall the goal, especially since we're going to the smaller fields where we're only going to, 4 PTQ next year after tour trials.
Yeah, so that's the thing. We're going to have, 55 people guaranteed into the fields every
So we
week.
should have them all on a team, you know?
So it's going to be, I mean, if you keep it at 6.
It should be. I mean, it should be the same. It should be very similar to this year, where there's 48 guys on teams with a couple guys in the field who didn't get picked on teams.
That could be a
for
sub
whatever
or-
reason, whether they're really high up in points or whether they're not really good. As much as it is a French thing, they don't fit on teams where
Goes a long ways.
There's teams you can see in the league now. I'm not going to say them, but like you can see there's teams. I mean, even like you said a little bit, your team, like none of you guys are really friends with each other besides like you and Darren. Like you and Darren are really the only 2 on that team who hang out more than just like once a month.
Yeah,
you
I've gotten
see
closer
Belmo
with
at
Belmo,
lunch and you
yeah.
sit down at the table with him. But even you and Belmo, it's not like you like go out to lunch twice a week with Belmo.
Right. We've talked more, but yeah.
But you might room with Darren.
Yeah.
You're not going to room with
have room.
Kevin McEwen. And you can see it, like you said, when you look at Chris's team, or even you look at my team. Even though I don't room with those guys, we all like joke around. We're all friends with each other. Like it's BJ, Kyle, who I am friends with, and then guys like Marshall, who I've been friendly with over the years. Richie Teese, who I've roomed with a couple of times. Barnes, who's like our grandfather. He's like our dad.
Yeah, he
He's
literally
like-
is.
Oh, well, for sure. He's the oldest by like 22
He's like,
years.
he's like our player manager, even though the managers show up more than other teams.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask that when you brought up Bakes earlier on the league talk. Do you think it's necessary to have team managers?
I mean, I love that he's there, and he cares a lot more than a lot of the other managers. Like he.
So that's the problem that I have with some of it. Some managers I feel like don't really care.
Yeah, that is some of the issues, but the ones that are around now, I think all care. I think they're all still competitive. That like Bakes, his career got cut short because of injury, and I'm not saying he's living vicariously through us, but he still has that competitive drive
For sure.
that he wants to win. Like he wants his team to win, and it's so I mean, he texts me every single practice session. How are we looking?
Yep.
Who's gonna bowl? What's the lineup? Like, well, so it's like
They're necessary when
we're
the
figuring
trades
it out.
and stuff come into play because the players can't talk. Because let's say all 3 of us bowl together, and then you 2 are like, dude, we got to drop Kevin. He's bowling like crap or whatever, and I just don't know, and it just happens. So the managers come in there at that point.
Yeah.
But I just don't see many trades going off. I don't see many guys getting dropped.
Yeah,
I just don't see it.
I mean, Bates made a trade to get
He
Barnes
traded-
back.
I say he traded with us
When?
a couple of years back too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to swap position. Well, yeah, Timmy Mack
It
traded.
was a trade position
because,
swap.
Yeah, so Timmy Mack wanted to get him with the first pick.
First
Yeah,
pick.
first pick. So we had the first pick.
Oh, before the draft they
yeah,
traded.
yeah. So
They
we
traded.
swapped because he wanted back-to-back picks. He thought he would get 2.
That's a little different
Better
than like
picks there.
mid-season.
Which
draft.
I think with the way the draft works, with it being a snake draft, front to back, back to front, I think whoever wins the league is probably in prime position to get 2 better quality players than a first pick and a last pick.
Yeah.
Because the last pick, the guy is usually outside the points.
It's snake draft has to stop. I'm like, that's
But
You just go-
and here's the thing: with a regular season and a team being 6 people, I think the snake draft can stop. The only reason that you would have a snake draft, in my mind,
What do you just go
would
to?
be so you could make a trade. Like you could trade 2 picks for 2 picks, without being like okay, well if I go up 2 spots, I'm fine going back 2 spots.
Yeah.
In the draft, or if I want up 4 spots so I can go back 4 spots, that doesn't really matter to me.
But so would you go to a regular draft where it's just 1 through 8, just regular rotation?
I think you would, because like I said, I think with the Lumberjacks being good every year, they always get to pick their guys because their last 2 players are like not high enough in points to pick them to like be drafted up top.
I mean, you look at them on paper, you're like, they're probably not that
And
great.
he's also always had the knack for picking the right guy.
Yeah.
Like he obviously he loves Arturo. He's going to pick Arturo all the time. Don't think many other teams are interested in picking Arturo.
Right.
But Arturo, like
Tebow's sick in the league.
That's his thing.
Everyone knows it now.
He loves team event. He shows up for that. Like, he got that dog in him. Like,
when it comes to team event, he
certainly
locks
has
in.
that dog in it. So it's like he's a fantastic team player.
For sure.
It's like, but there's other teams that, you know, if you're looking just generally at PBA points, he's not going to be on the radar for a lot of teams. But Timmy knows him. He's seen him bowl everywhere. So like he knew to pick him. But then he's had, you know, Packy, who was like just kind of breaking out. He picked Packy, looked really good, bowled incredible.
Well, the points don't always correlate too, you know.
Yeah, but then same thing. He picked Graham. Like no one was really like super high on Graham. He would have gotten picked.
The teams up there already had, the teams in front of him already had lefties. And the teams later in the draft probably weren't going to pick him.
Yeah, so he snatched up Graham and
he
dude didn't miss. Yeah. Like he literally didn't miss on TV. So it's just like one of those, he has a knack for picking the right guy. And then also he's got, you know, Wes, you know, Troop, Prather. It's like those guys, obviously, they all bowl really well. They vibe together. And then he snacks Smallwood this year with his last pick or whatever.
This draft this year was crazy.
To where it was like,
so weird.
Where it was like, yeah, Smallwood hasn't bowled fantastic in the last couple of years, but he gets drafted and then immediately dominates the first event. You know, it's 1 seed, and it's like, okay, it's like, it's like Timmy just kind of has the knack for finding the right guy and picking the right guy at the right time, and then they start bowling really well.
Do you think anyone in the league would request a trade for themselves? Like, let's say you're not really vibing with your team halfway through the season, and you're like, hey, I don't really like where I'm at. Do you think I have value to bring me to another team? Do you think anyone would do that? Because
you got to be amazing. You have to be an amazing player to do that. You have to be like a top 10 player over the last
to say
10
you
years.
Want to trade?
Yes, because I think if you do that, then that team's probably never picking you again.
It sounds bad saying this. I'm not sure anyone cares enough.
Yet.
I think
the season's too short for the trades. That's the problem.
I think there's like I love team bowling, and like if I wasn't happy where I was, I'm just not the type of guy that would like just bail on my team and want to go somewhere else. But if I was, it's not like the winning team's getting $100,000 a piece or something like that, to where it's
still
not
a decent amount.
Yeah, I mean it's still a good amount. Of money, but it's not like we're bowling for this.
That's a lot.
It's not like bowling for this massive prize fund that it's like, yo, like we want to win this because like we know if we win we get paid. I think there's a lot of guys that's like, yeah, our team's trash this year. I'm like, oh well, that means I just don't go to Portland.
I've always had this idea. What do you think it would look like in terms of intensity if it was like top 2 teams get paid or top team gets, let's say the prize fund is how much?
It was like $500,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, close to.
It was like 490,000.
Yeah.
That's what the number
so if it was 490,000, what if it was 90,000 to the second place team, 400,000 to the first?
Yeah.
Guys would probably
you gotta
be
bowl
a little,
so much more though than that, because two game matches.
I'm not talking about any of that. I'm just talking. How do you think it would be week to week? Intensity.
Guys would take it way more serious.
I bet guys would request trades. I bet Dom
guys
would be
dial
like,
in.
"Hey, I would love to get traded to the first place team."
Well, yeah,
Send
of course.
me.
But it would also be the same issue to where it's like yeah, this team's 7-1. It's like, obviously they're not going to want to trade anyone if they're 7-1. I want off this team. This team sucks. Like I'm trying to get at least maybe to the second place team or whatever it is, and then I think it would be a disaster.
Well, that's where.
But I do think a team like you, yes, maybe they would want on the second place team, but they would probably also want on the third or fourth place team in the middle of the season, knowing, hey, well, I got a chance.
We're close.
I got a chance with that team.
Yeah, some guys like like the Waco teams, 1-7 or 1-8
so
or whatever they are. It's like
whoever's highest on their points in team. I think it's Mitch. Mitch would probably be like, ooh, I want out to any of the top 4 teams because at least I have a chance, or any of the top 6 teams, because then I would have like a good chance to win. Because once you get to Portland, anybody can win. It's a bracket.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you would see guys maybe asking for trades, but I also think like when you said, do you think anybody would ask for a trade?
You take more risk.
For me, it's not that nobody cares enough to ask for a trade. I think there's a whole lot more risk in asking to get traded than there is to gain.
Because then people are like, you're burning a bridge.
Yeah, like let's say
like
Mitch, Mitch or Dom
loyalty.
or you say, or even me, let's say I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just not happy. I want off my team. Let's say I say that.
But, we're dropping you.
And then I'm like, then they say, okay, sure, we'll trade you.
Mm-hmm.
So they trade me. and then I bowl bad the rest of the year, and that team drops me, and now I'm looking like, okay, now there's 2 teams that probably don't want me back again.
Yeah.
Not like the MLB where there's
30 or there's a lot of places to go.
Teams, and you're like, okay, well, there's plenty of points to go around.
But also I think that also comes into play. It's like the PBA League season is short. We bowl 14 games, however you want to look at it, like I regularly said. We bowl 14 matches. Like, that's not a lot. Like, we're already almost done. Yeah. Like, we already almost have the teams mathematically in for the playoffs. Like, it's got to go the exact way it needs to have Waco get in because they only have 1 win. So it's like, okay, let's say we tripled, whatever it looks like. Let's say we triple that. Well, we're bowling like 50 matches. You have a lot more time to make some trades, see what works, and like go from there. Where it's like you watch an NBA season. It's like you see guys get traded all over the place because they have 80 games to figure it out. Well, here it's like you're halfway through the season. You're like, well, at this point, why does it matter? We're into a 4 seed.
We bowl on different patterns every week. It's like, some guys are going to have a good look on something. They're going to have a bad look on something. Especially when you got lefties.
And you're gonna, I was gonna say, especially for the lefties, you're gonna be like, okay, well,
you gotta hang them around.
We're bowling on short this week. Guess who I need? That guy I just traded last week.
Yeah. There is so many more variables where it's like in basketball, it's like, well, you know what you get out of this guy. They can develop a little better, but you're like, we need some shooters around a LeBron. Let's go grab some shooters. Where it's like,
I need a spare shooter.
It's like, well, we all are. It's a PBA League.
Yeah, and you're like. Yeah, and you're like, okay, well, great. Like, there's only so many of those, especially outside the points or free agents. Like,
and you don't even need a spare shooter now because it's like, well, for one, scores are high, but also you're bowling a Baker game. In reality, you got to throw 2 strikes.
Yeah.
Most guys, and it's like most guys can muster up a double. What?
I don't think you need 2 strikes in a Baker game. Scores aren't that high.
Well, I'm saying the concept of like getting everyone on tour should be able to throw a double.
You need a frame. You need a frame filler. But yeah, there's definitely some guys that, and I think that's why some guys don't get picked, and I don't know if they realize it or not. But I think a lot of guys, like not a lot of guys, but the guys who are either deeper in the points or guys who don't end up on teams, they're like, oh, like man, they might think to themselves, I can't believe I didn't get picked. Whereas a lot of the teams, just from being in the team talk sometimes. A lot of the teams are like, we'd rather pick a safe guy that hits the pocket and doesn't strike as much than a guy who might get 7 and might strike.
Might throw an 8-bagger.
Because over the course of a game,
you'll take a 9 pair over a 7-2.
Let's call it you, or let's call it a Jesper, right? Jesper's gonna hit the pocket pretty much every shot. He might not strike, and the weeks that especially when there's a 6-man roster, the weeks that he's not gonna strike and split, okay, you can leave him out the lineup. But if you have 2 guys that do that, right? Mm-hmm. If you have 2 guys that are like, they might not have a look at all, and when they don't have a look, they can't hit the pocket, then you're like, oh, well, we have to leave him in the lineup. And he might split, which is a game killer. Mm-hmm. When it's a Baker game when it's a Baker game, it's a game killer.
Yep.
When it's by themselves, they might shoot 260. But if they only have 2 shots and one of them's a split, you guys all can't strike every game.
Well, yeah, it's hard to piece 5 guys together.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
During a tournament.
It's hard to get 5 guys to throw a strike in a row.
It's tough. I mean, to bowl like the 240s and 250 games, it's hard. Like it's very, very hard.
You all have to be lined up.
Yeah, and everyone throws a little different and stuff and matches up. Yeah,
like we bowled really, really well this week. And then it's funny too because like our team bowled really well this week. This was by far our highest scoring matches.
Same with us.
I think we had 470 and then we had 450. And then we had, the roll-off. We all made really good shots as well. So we bowled the best that we had bowled all year.
We went 1-1.
And then, we went 1-1. And then I was the one that didn't bowl. I qualified 5th. And then Jesper had like 530 or something for 2 games to sneak into the top 24 bowled match play and got knocked out first round. Everyone else was like in the mid-40s or lower. And then you guys went 0-2, right? Yeah, so you guys went 0-2.
We all made match play.
Everyone, like your lowest person finishing was T26.
And your highest 2 finishers went into a match to get onto the TV show.
And now you got a 1 seed.
We have a 1 seed, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you guys bowled poorly in the team event, or you at least lost. And then now your entire team bowled extremely well, where our team bowled extremely well together. And then when we got by ourselves, out bowled poorly. But
that's where I think it's important to get teams that fit together, because you get a team that fits together, they might not bowl well by themselves. Like much like you said, Andrew Anderson, the best player in the league by far so far. Like the best player in the league by far so far in the season. And on tour, he would probably describe his season so far as like a C.
Yeah.
Hasn't made a show. Hasn't really made, I guess, a run at a show until this event, where he bowled unbelievable and just lost in match play. Before this event, he would probably say that the season so far is a C, and probably even after this event, because he lost in match play, would still probably be like, how's the season going so far? It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not great. But in the league, if all we did was bowl the league matches, he'd probably say, yeah, it's been unbelievable for me.
Yeah, 100%.
Because he's winning a bunch of matches, he's anchoring a lot, he's striking for his team.
He'd be the league MVP.
Yeah.
Like at the current moment. Like, you know, their team's bowling incredible. I think they're in first, right?
They're in first, yeah.
Tied for first, or they are?
They're in first.
They're in first. And he's definitely the best player on the team
Agreed.
statistically. So it's, you know, it's one of those things, it's just crazy how much it would change. I mean, it's cool. I just think it's another thing to talk about. I think it would be cool just to see it continue to grow, just the league in general. And, you know, I feel like just a little more hype throughout the week to kind of build up those league matches as well. It's like, you know, they air them on Bowl TV, and then there's a little brief write-up that Nolan and them do. But it'd be cool to be like, yo, hey, we're 3 days away from, you know, hey, the first and second place teams are bowling each other. Like, this is a big matchup coming up.
Thing.
They also talked about, it's hard to build it up, because they did talk about it, like when we were in Maine and we talked to Carissa about the
separating
about the
two.
PBA League. Like, it's hard because the tour is trending upwards. The PBA Tour in general is trending upwards, and then the PBA League is this new thing. So you have to do a good enough job spreading them apart and making them separate without clouding and confusing everybody that both things are going on. So it is, and it's interesting to see, like, they do the recaps and everything like that, but I do think it is hard for them to say, okay, like, let's push the PBA League before the event starts. Well, especially the weeks when it's not on TV.
That's why,
like, the weeks, like during the Masters, they'll probably pump it up a ton.
I have high hopes for the PBA League. I really do.
I think it could be big.
And I'm excited that they actually did an expansion, and I think it's just going to take a couple years to, like, I hope they just trust the process. Like, I hope they don't bail out the second. Like, this isn't going quite that well. Like, I think it needs a couple years to build, obviously, like anything. But I think if it stays the course, even if it's the exact same format right now, you know, we're just kind of brainstorming, like, what it really could be or whatever. But even if it stays exactly how it is now, I feel like it could be really big in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. But thanks for watching. You got any final thoughts, words?
No, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for watching.